Hello all! I still remember my first day in MBA college. The dean asked me, "Why have you taken finance?" And my reply was, "I want to be able to predict the stock market just as they show on CNBC." And the dean said, "Oh, that's not going to happen. Why was I wrong? Why is it so difficult to predict the stock market or make any good decisions when it comes to money?" Let's find out in the book review Psychology of Money.
Ronald Read was a janitor at J.C. Penney and literally swept the floors throughout his life. However, when he died, people found out that he left behind a staggering 8 million US dollars. How did he accumulate so much money? By investing in blue chip stocks throughout his life. Blue chip stocks are big companies. In India, it could be like Infosys, TCS, HDFC Bank, etc. He let them grow using the power of compounding. Compare that to a top Merrill Lynch executive, 40 under 40 success stories. He was almost broke when he died. How is it possible for Ronald Read to outperform somebody from the finance world? Is it possible for Ronald in any other field, like Ronald doing better than a doctor in surgery or creating higher skyscrapers than a civil engineer? Now, that is the world of finance. It is not just about spreadsheets and financial engineering, but it is about what you do with the money, what goes inside your head. It is about the psychology of money. No one is crazy. That is the first principle I learned from the book. Imagine a Chinese sweatshop where people work for 16 hours a day. Exploitation is unfortunately the norm. One of the workers was interviewed and she said, earlier she was a prostitute, so this at least gives her a life of dignity. Again, another example is a lottery ticket, American lottery, where most of the investors are poor, marginal people who cannot even have any savings. Why do they invest in lottery? Because they see a dream. So it means no one is crazy. They have their own points of views. The way an Australian sees a market will be very different from the way an Indian sees. An Australian may not have recession for the last 30 years. So his expectations from the market will be very different. Second principle I learned is luck and risk are siblings. Bill Gates studied at the only school in US which had a computer in 1968. He famously quoted as saying, if there was no Lakeside, that is a school, there would be no Microsoft. And compare it with Kent Evans, who was Bill Gates' friend, who studied in the same school but died of a tragic mountaineering accident, which also are very rare. It just shows that luck and risk are siblings. Imagine the Yahoo offer to buy Facebook. Yahoo had made an offer and Facebook refused, and people said that was a mistake back then. Similarly, Microsoft had made an offer to buy Yahoo and Yahoo had refused. Now, one of the offer, like the first one, Facebook rejection, is the ultimate reason why they are so successful. Whereas the other led to a tragic ending because Yahoo is close to almost bankrupt. So it is not about your successes are solely due to you as a principal, but the role of luck. Imagine like there are hundreds of millionaires who invest in stock market. If anyone were to ask, would one of them become a billionaire just by luck? And you would say, yeah, a few for sure. But if we point out, can you point out those billionaires? No, because it would be a little below the belt to just tell that somebody made it by sheer luck. So what should we learn from this? We learn that it's not the success stories of few outlier individuals that we should try to emulate, be it Warren Buffett, etc. Because there could be a lot of luck involved in it. Whereas we should try to see the broad patterns. That's where most of the learnings would be. The third principle I learned is not having enough. Happiness is result minus your expectations, and you should know when to stop pushing the goalpost forward, when to stop being greedy. Rajat Gupta was CEO of McKinsey in his 40s, but he was caught in an insider trading attempt by when Goldman Sachs had a buy from Berkshire Hathaway. Rajat Gupta came to know of the transaction beforehand and he told one of his hedge fund managers to buy that stock. $17 million was the profit in a few minutes. However, he spent many years in prison because of that. So, what is the best way to earn money in a casino? That is to get out as soon as you win some money. So, you should know when you have had enough. The fourth principle is the power of compounding. Now imagine there have been so many research cases done on why there were 4 or 5 snow ages on Earth, and some people thought it is because of the Earth Moon orbit, etc. However, the conclusion was because the summers were not as hot as they should have been, and the ice left over from the previous winters could not be fully melted. And that's when more and more ice grew over the number of years. That is, ice ages were a product of compounding. Similar was the case with Warren Buffett. He has been investing in stocks from 10 years right up to 90 years. So he is an investment guru, but his secret is still compounding. So what we should do, we should just invest in some good stocks or maybe the index and shut up and then wait rather than trying to time the market. Fifth point is getting versus staying wealthy. Now, Jesse Livermore was the Don in the Great Depression era of 1929. In one day, he made $4 billion when the market was down by simply shorting the market. However, just 4 years after that, he lost it all. So he was good at getting wealthy, but very bad at staying. So what is the difference between getting and staying wealthy? For getting wealthy, you need to have ambition, whereas for staying wealthy, you need to have humility. You need to believe that you are not invincible and there is a role of luck involved in where you have reached. You should not take reckless decisions. Sequoia Capital, which has been a VC firm for many decades, was once asked how are they so successful, and they said, we are just afraid. We don't take reckless decisions. So it is about being unbreakable, because if we just invest everything that we have and we lose it all, then we don't let compounding create its magic. And good times are not equal to end of bad times. So always have enough money so that you can live another day, and that day will be a good day. So tails you win. This is the next lesson. Disney Pictures had lost a lot of money earlier. However, one good film, Snow White, made all the difference. So that's a tail event. After producing maybe hundreds of bad films, just one good film, that's what paid them the rich dividends. Then there is another story of a production house which produced Rambo as well as Terminator and many such films, Total Recall, etc. However, after their films stopped doing good, in just 5-6 years, they went completely bankrupt. So what we see is all these top successes are a result of tail events whose probability is not that high. Let's take Warren Buffett's example. He has himself said that out of 400 investments, only 10 of them have been blockbuster hits. As George Soros, the famous investment guru, famously says, it's not about how many times you fail or you succeed, but it is about how much money you make or lose on these attempts. The next lesson is freedom from 24/7 jobs. We all know now that we don't work in a production shop floor wherein we work only when we are in office. But the thought is constantly in our mind. Even on a Saturday, we may be thinking how to actually fix the issue that we were working on Friday. So what is the best power of money? It is the freedom that it gives from such jobs. It allows you to do whatever you want for as long as you want. So for example, if you do not get a good job, it gives you the freedom to take a break rather than trying to get into a job that pays you less. The 8th lesson is man in the car paradox. The author says that he himself worked as a valet earlier, and people buy these fancy cars because they think many of them actually take lots of loans to buy them, like a lot of mortgage backed cars, because people think that others will feel that they have arrived, they have achieved something in life. However, as a valet, the author never actually took any notice of the driver inside the car. The author always imagined, when I will have a car, I will look like a great man. So that is the man in the car paradox. So if you actually want to have respect from others, rather than buying such expensive cars or houses, you should rather invest in humility and helping others. 9th lesson is wealth is not what you see. There is a difference between the rich versus wealthy. The rich are those that have actually spent a lot of money in buying a lot of cars, and you can make out who is rich. Whereas wealthy are those who have a lot of money in the bank. It is all those cars that you have not bought. So unfortunately, whenever someone thinks that they want to be a millionaire, they always think that they will buy a lot of things by investing all their millions. But being wealthy is exactly the opposite. It is about just preserving money. And remember this before you judge people or yourself, because you may think that somebody is not rich, but in fact they would be wealthy. The next lesson is saving money. So we should plan for our plan, not going according to our plan. Now, why this is important? In the hyper-connected world, it's no matter good for being just the best in your city. Like the jobs all are now work from anywhere. You can work for a US based job right from India or vice versa. So you have to be globally competitive, and saving money will allow you to buy time with the money. That is the best thing money can buy, the time that you can get out of it. And that time you can leverage for learning anything new. Reasonableness rather than being rational. Now there was a famous malaria therapy that was used to treat syphilis disease, which is a disease of the neurological system. It was a 1917 experiment where a doctor would purposely inject people with malaria so that they could get high fevers, because it is proven that when the body temperature increases by 1 degree, it reduces the virus replication rate by 200%. So he purposely used malaria to treat patients. Now, is that something reasonable or is it rational? So we actually find such experiments where people try something because they think it is the best thing at that point of time. So it is similar with our investments. Why did this therapy not work? People actually don't like to get fever. Why? Because it doesn't let them sleep peacefully at night. Though fevers are good for our body to an extent, and because they help the immune system responses, but our sleep gets disturbed because no one likes shivering under the blanket. Similar is the case with investments. Investments should be those that let you sleep peacefully at night. The next thing is the power of surprise. Intelligent Investor is a famous book from Benjamin Graham. Definitely it has lots of formulas, but the height is it has been changed around 5 times right after it was written. So what it means is the formulas always keep on evolving. Earlier the author said that in Intelligent Investor that you should not buy stocks which are trading above their book value. But if you apply that principle now, you will not be able to buy any stock. So you need to change your principles continuously, and as we know, if the principles are going to change continuously, you will always be surprised as there will always be something new. Because imagine in physics, physics like takes care of all the electrons and how they operate, etc. And electrons do not have any emotions, whereas people have emotions. And that is why the reason why they invest in stocks, etc. is backed by emotions, and it is likely to change from person to person. So this science of investing is always evolving. It is not just a failure of analysis when you are not able to predict the stock market, but it is a failure of your imagination. Because let's consider an example of building a nuclear reactor. The pressure that the reactor etc. is supposed to sustain is the highest previous tsunami or earthquake that has occurred. However, if you have some event that goes beyond the previous highest, your nuclear reactor will be in jeopardy. So that's where it's a failure of imagination, that things could go even more wrong than they have gone so far. Now we should always have room for error. This is the 13th principle. Say we are playing blackjack event, the cards are being drawn, so you know the probability what might be the next card, but you are never sure that the next card will always be a specific card that you want. So there is always a margin for error. So anybody who plays blackjack, they know that you cannot bet with everything that you have in the same game, and the biggest gains are always infrequent. Even if you have a very strong hunch, you cannot bet your entire money on that. And the recommended amount is, if you have say 10 lakh rupees, you should invest 10,000 rupees, like 1 upon 100 units per bet. So 100 units if you have, you should invest only 1 rupee per bet. So then it allows you to benefit from the gains going in your favor, the odds going in your favor as well. There is a famous battle of Stalingrad which the Germans and the Russians fought during World War, and Germans had around 100 plus tanks etc. fully prepared in the fields. But they had not imagined only for one thing, one small error they did not leave room for. Which one? The mice biting the inside of the tanks, which is a very rare event, a tail event. But the probability of such tail events happening in reality is far higher than any of us can ever imagine. And compare it with what all the financial pundits on television tell us about all the price targets, etc. They give us specific targets instead of giving us price ranges. So now you know that even if they want to sound very optimistic and specific, because if somebody says that he doesn't really know what will happen in the market tomorrow, which actually is the case, then nobody will follow that person. So they want to reverse this, and hence they give you specific price targets. But knowing these principles, you should take these targets with a pinch of salt rather than believing on them blindly. And there is always room for error. The next thing we learn is you will always change. So you are not what you were 10 years back. The two personality now and what it was 10 years back may appear to be complete strangers. And say for example you took a decision when you were 18 to study civil engineering, and now you are 40 and still you are pursuing civil engineering. Then that means that you are living under the past, like somebody else had taken a decision for you. It feels that kind of a difference. So what do we learn in the world of investing from this? You should not have any drastic investments, because if you say buy like 4 houses, you are just stuck with those 4 houses. If the houses become illiquid, you are not able to sell off, then you will not be able to balance your portfolio. So do not make any drastic investments that may end up feeling like bad choices to you later on in life, because you will always change. The next thing is nothing is free. It is even the case when it comes to investing in stock markets. So all the market volatility, etc., that is a fee for investing in the market, and it should be viewed as a fee rather than being viewed as a fine. So if you have say investments where you day trade, etc., that is like trying to gain out of the market without investing in the fee, and that is equivalent to shoplifting. And if you try to shoplift, you are more likely to be punished, rather than you may get away maybe 2 or 3 times, but one day you will be caught big time. So the author mentions that you should not try to time the market and pay the price for market volatility, which is actually a fee and rather than not a fine. The next thing is asset bubbles, you and me. So the author says these are completely different people. Like you may be a long-term investor, whereas I may be a day trader. So the price that you should pay for a particular asset is definitely not what I should pay. Like imagine a Cisco stock earlier. It was trading in 1990s at around $300, and the growth rate at which it was growing was supposed to eclipse even the entire US economy in 20 years. Now what was that rational? Of course not. But it was just some day traders having some fun in the stock market. So if you were a long-term investor, you would be doomed to buy the Cisco stock at such a high price. And the right price depends on your time horizon. So you should always stay away from these asset bubbles and take care of whatever long-term investments you are making. They are rational and not driven by just the momentum-based trades. And whenever these economists, market pundits give you advice on various news channels, they do not know who you are, what is your background. They are just giving you broad advice. What is your risk appetite, etc. So you should consider all of that. Reduction of pessimism. Now this is again a very good one. Optimism sounds like a sales pitch, whereas pessimism sounds like somebody is trying to help you. So somebody says that market will improve maybe 5% tomorrow. He may seem like just trying to sell something or sell one of his mutual fund schemes. Whereas if somebody announces on television that market is going to crash, like it is going to come from 50,000 to 10,000, everybody will listen to him. Why? Because health and money, they are things where everybody is interested. Health is individual, whereas money is systemic. So all the pessimists, etc., get a lot of prime time. And that is something you should consider. So if you are a long-term investor, like you want to invest till you retire, you should not listen to these doomsayers and worry about their research and stories, because that is not something that is likely to impact you as an investor. And the next thing is when you will believe anything. So there are, remember the times when our parents used to tell us good bedtime stories when we were small, and we had our own world at that age. Like I still remember listening to some of those stories, and we feel that we understand the world completely from our perspective. Now that is the same with stock market. Like the information one person, like I may have about the market is just 0.00000001%. However, I may believe that I know how 100% or maybe at least 90% of the market is going to behave based on my version of that story. So you should not believe on such stories.
So a good option would be to invest in low cost index funds. So no matter which company does well or not, you don't have to keep watching the news. The index will always track the best companies. So hope you liked my session and do subscribe and like my video. Till next time. Bye bye.